Hey. Happy Thursday, y'all. How y'all doing out there? I hope that you guys are doing fantastic. It's Thursday, almost. We're almost to that weekend, y'all. I just want to say thank you for being on here. As many of you know who watch the Nitty Grit, you know that we normally do it on Fridays, but I decided to do it on Thursdays to just see kind of how that works. And it's really good to be able to do it this month because it's Women's History Month, and I love the ladies. Y'all know that. But I'm so glad you could be here tonight to join us, Facebook and YouTube. I appreciate y'all. I'm very excited, y'all. Tonight, I have a very special guest. And I met this woman in a beauty pageant of all places, which is kind of cool. And she really warmed my heart because I had a rough time getting to the pageant and getting myself together. And she welcomed me in. She was the one who signed me in and got me all situated. So I'm very grateful for her. And throughout the experience, she was just a light. She was a real true light. And I want you to meet her. So without further ado, y'all, I want to welcome my guest, Dr. Tola. Welcome, Dr. Tola. Hello, beautiful.
Hi. Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. So nice to be here.
I'm so glad you could be here. How's your day today?
Busy, but I'm glad to be here.
Well, I am sure you are a busy woman, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to be here tonight because I really truly believe that what you have to share is going to be pretty awesome.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here and look forward to our conversation tonight.
Me too. Now, where are you coming in from? Where are you originally from? I mean, where you live now?
Yeah, I'm in Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay, is that where you originally from?
Originally from Nigeria.
Oh, cool. Oh, got me a Nigerian woman on tonight. Yes. You know, I grew up in Texas, and so I had a lot of Nigerian friends in Texas. I don't know if you know, but a lot of Nigerians live in Texas.
I
And
do know that.
it's cool. Like, I mean, they really showed me a great time. So
Oh,
it
that's
was like I had
wonderful.
my own little community with them, and I was very grateful to be welcomed into their community.
Oh, that's
So yes, honey, yes. Well, I am not gonna, I just this is gonna be just fun, and we're just gonna chat it up tonight. But I want to ask you a few things. Before we get started, I love for you to tell people a little bit about you, like, whatever you want to tell them, your hobbies, things that you like to do, just to give them a little bit of introduction to Dr. Tola. What would you share with the people?
Yeah, okay. So I am a double board certified addiction psychiatrist, and I help CEOs, professionals who struggle with anything from suicide, addiction, depression, and kind of lead them to that journey and path to recovery. I'm definitely passionate about mental health. As we can see in the world today, there is such an extensive need for it. And I think the pandemic has really shed a great amount of light on that. I was the Miss US Elite for 2022. So that was really awesome experience in itself. I'm married with twins, a boy and a girl, and they keep me very busy.
Cool. I was gonna ask you were they twins because I saw your kids online and I'm like, they look like they're about the same height. Maybe but one's a little bit taller, but I'm like, maybe they're twins. So
Yeah.
that's cool to know. Twins. Ooh, girl. Yes, you have your hands full. You have your hands full. Thank you so much for sharing that information about you. I just want to go ahead and jump into these questions. So being that you said that you're a psychiatrist and your specialty, I think I was reading your specialty is addiction, correct?
Yes.
You may have said that just a moment ago. But I want to ask you, like, that's a pretty intense field, right?
Mhm.
What made you choose that particular field? What made you choose this field?
Um, it's funny because I'm not sure that I necessarily chose it. I think God led me to it. I think
Mm,
my journey with psychiatry was kind of where the Lord placed me in. I've always been a good listener, and I enjoy that empathic in nature and just wanting to engage folks and listen to them and enjoy their story and where they've come from. And so naturally, that was an area of interest. And then in my psychiatry, residency, we did lots of rotations, and I got exposed, of course, to addiction. Now, at the time, I didn't understand what it was because I had a family member, my uncle, who passed away from an addiction overdose. And so it wasn't something that we spoke about in the family. Addiction is not something you talk about. That uncle, who is amazing, he comes around when there's a barbecue and everyone is excited. He was that person, he was great in barbecuing, and every time we had any events, he was there. We saw him sporadically. We knew that, things always looked a little crazy by the end. But we never talked about it. But unfortunately, he passed from addiction. And it was not, we never really, growing up as a child, it wasn't something we knew, we understood, but we didn't understand that he could have actually received the help that he needed. And so when I got in the field and I, literally started doing my rotations, and I got exposed and actually realized there's, the addiction medicine as well as the addiction psychiatry, it was, almost like Lord led me that this is what you need to be doing. And here, after I told myself, like, why am I spending another year training just to do this? I'm like, isn't 4 years enough of all the years that we've spent training? But it's been amazing. I mean, as we see, prior to the pandemic, we already had, we had the opioid epidemic going on, and so it's, and of course, even I guess we're sort of in a post-pandemic. I'm not sure how we all categorize it right now, but there is still the pandemic. We're still seeing opioid. The numbers have literally gone up high. Addiction is still everywhere, and with every family or every patient that comes in, everyone, we're seeing the numbers are increasing, even from COVID in itself. And so it's been a definitely great opportunity to have trained under the best and be in that field and line at this point in time. So,
wow. How many years have you been in it?
In which part of it?
I mean, how many years have you been working in that particular field of specializing in addiction?
In 3 years.
3 years. So what I just wanted to ask real quick, what would you say, like, you have learned from, like, what addiction actually really is? Like, you mentioned your uncle and you guys didn't really know what that was. And then, so what did you discover on your journey of what it actually is?
I mean, yes, we knew it was addiction, but I didn't understand at the time that, there was help and he could get the help, and, it wasn't something that we spoke about. I think that was really the part. It was more, because again, nobody talks about the black sheep, right? It's almost like a hush thing, yeah, he's that uncle. No one, they don't engage you, and you ask questions and they don't want to talk about it. And so it was more like that. And a lot of times you find out that you hear that is not just a topic of discussion. It's not exciting, it's painful. It's embarrassing. It's the emotional turmoil, that he put his family through, and not just his immediate family, but also, his parents, my mother's, his sister. And so that was, it was hard, and seeing all of those like emotions and then going through that. So, it was hard, emotionally and mentally. And then in terms of just what you're looking out for, my understanding and our understanding today of what addiction is, it's a chronic relapsing disease. So it's no different from your diabetes, which is a chronic disease. I believe that, it continues to be stigmatized because it's difficult for folks to understand, you are the one going there and picking it up, but not understanding the implications of what happens to your brain when you take it over and repeatedly over and over again. But it does affect the chemical formulations and functions of our brain. And so that impacts, what happens to you. And so that's where the repeated cycle goes, and you're having it over and over again and then it becomes a problem. And so that is the issue that I think, people are not able to resonate with, and like, well, you picked it up, right? So why can't you just drop it? And we know as addiction psychiatrists that it's not that easy, right? Something has changed biologically at that point in time. There is the genetic, then there is the fact that something has changed in your brain structure that actually prevents you from just dropping it and being okay with that. And so having to go through treatment is very, very important. and understanding that you're not alone. You will not be the first and you will not be the last.
Mhm.
But there is hope, and I think that's more important to
I
think about.
appreciate you sharing that, lady. I just, that's so key what you just shared about people just can't just drop it. Like people think there's a myth to that. Like, why come you can't just quit? And I love that you're sharing the deeper parts. Is our brain is being affected, and
Yes,
so it's not as easy as everybody think it should be. That's
exactly.
really good information. I received that and appreciate that because you're educating us tonight. So y'all, I hope you guys are hearing that. Those of you who are listening, very important. So thank you for that. I wanted to ask you because I titled this episode, Embracing All of You. And so I just wanted to ask your thoughts on this, being that you work with people who have addiction.
Mhm.
How do you help them embrace all of themselves? Because I know that there's, like you mentioned with your family, there's shame and stuff, and people are like embarrassed, they don't want to talk about it. How do you help a person? What advice would you give on helping them to embrace all of themselves in the process of this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And so, the first thing I always say, and we've had that word thrown around when we talk about self-care,
Yeah.
self-love, self-compassion. You have to love yourself. That's the first thing.
Mhm.
Nobody can love you for you. I mean, we love you, but we can't love you, enough. You have to love yourself first. Nobody completes you. You complete yourself. They're adding on to you, right? And so I think that's really that's the first thing you want to understand, which is loving yourself, and
Mm.
so part of self-care, we say being intentional, what you're feeding into your body, what you're eating, how you treat your body, all of those things, because we're talking addiction here. It encompasses embracing yourself. You have to embrace everything that has to do with you. When it comes to, we talk about spirituality, that is important. You have to feed your spirit with the right positive things, right? You're talking about the environment, what is happening around you, who do you surround yourself with. These are things that are very, very important. The healthy people who are striving for better things, who you can look up to, positivity, that's very, very key. You're looking at, intellectual, you want to, of course, expand your knowledge base, because the more knowledge you have, also helps in terms of how you occupy your time. Because a lot of times we find that whether it's from depression, being a depressed state, you're trying to treat the depression or anxiety, you're trying, a lot of times that is most of the time the story you hear. You're trying to treat something or something that feels empty, and as a result you're then going to whatever drug that you're going to use. And so we want to treat those things, right, those underlying them, whether it's trauma that you've gone through, whether it's depression, anxiety, any one of those things. We want to treat it so that you're able to like take away the addiction, the substance that you're using, whether it's substance or non-substance, because a lot of times we just talk about addiction and think it's only, substances like alcohol, drugs, but there is, the non-addiction, such as food addiction and, sex and all the other things that
And
are
people
out there.
addiction, people
Yeah,
addiction, codependency.
codependence. Oh,
That's,
yes, yes.
yeah.
So it's
Wow.
intense. I think those are really great ways to encompass it holistically. So I wrote a journal, and one of the things I put on there is the 8 dimensions of wellness. And so I feel like if you're able to embrace that, that's the first step to take to really embrace who you are as an individual and your hopes and dreams and being able to accomplish them. And so, we go through again the spirituality, environment, your education, intellectual, as well as your education, vocation, your physical being, your emotion, and of
Mhm.
course, your mental health as well. So those are like the 8 dimensions of wellness that you really want to encompass. And if you're looking at it holistically, then you're, of course, being able to embrace all of that would actually, there's no way you can go through all of that without actually feeling like I am loving myself. I am putting myself first, and so, yeah.
Ooh, that's good stuff. Now that those 8 that you dropped, that booklet that you talked about, do you have that in an ebook?
I do. I do. I think you're frozen. I hope it's not me.
OMG. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, you guys, we just had some technical difficulties. My internet went completely out, just out of
Oh,
the blue.
that's okay.
So I apologize, everyone. I apologize. And we were having it was so good.
That's
So
okay. It happens.
I'm glad you stayed on. Thank you for just staying on and weathering
Yeah.
through that.
Not
So Dr. Tola, I just want to kind of like recap. We talked about you have a journal,
yeah.
correct? And it's
Correct.
available.
Yes.
It's available. Where can people find that?
On Amazon and
You have a link. You want to type the link in, or you a link in,
sure.
or just tell us what it is, and then
Yeah.
I have my wonderful husband doing tech for me, so he can put it in the chat if you name it off.
Okay. I'm trying to see if it's
Or
not
if
on
you
here.
have,
You
if you
can
have a link, you could copy and paste and send it. But you guys, just for those of you who may be just coming on, I'm speaking with Dr. Tola, and we're talking about, she's a psychiatrist and she also specializes in addiction. And we were talking a lot about addiction, and then some pointers, like some 8 steps you can take, and how to literally embrace all of yourself in your situation. And I think, like, whether you have an addiction or not, the concept of embracing all of you, I think everything you shared, Dr. Tola, applies. Loving yourself. Loving yourself, period. And so I really appreciate that. I thought that was great information, and you're so right. And I absolutely love that you, even what you mentioned earlier, that you kind of, you're a great listener, and so you kind of listen to God direct you in this particular field.
yes.
And you're actually helping people, because that's a skill that you have, which I think is so beautiful. And I really want to commend you for that, because a lot of times people do get into fields for different reasons. Some get into it because for money, some get into it because they really want to help people. And I know it's very important for me with the health industry, and just even for myself trying to get into the doctor, or having a, I have an HMO, so having a way to get a specialist. And if I don't have that doctor that's rooting for me to get me that specialist, it becomes a challenge. And so I appreciate women like you, people like you, who are like, I signed up for this to help people. I really did. And I'm a listener and I want to listen to them. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So you want to go ahead and give us that link? Did you get it? You found it?
Yeah, I just found, yeah, it's in the
Okay,
www.drtoller.com.
I'm gonna copy and paste it because it went into the main. It put it into the private, so I'm gonna give it to the people so they can see it. So hopefully they can see that.
Okay.
Okay, do you guys see that link out there that I just posted? I hope you just put yes in the chat if you see it. But this is good stuff. So that's on Amazon. If you guys can go to drtola.com/shop-2. It's right there in the chat. So if you want to get her 8 steps, you highlight them real quick again, just really quick so they can hear what they are.
Yeah, so your spiritual wellness, your intellectual wellness, your vocational wellness, your mental wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness. Am I missing one? Environmental wellness. Yes.
Cool. Y'all hear that? Get that. That sounds like it's helpful for just anybody. It's not just addiction, right? It's
Exactly.
these
Exactly.
areas. Well, thank you for that. I want to ask you this. You're talking about addiction a little bit. What kind of you mentioned how it impacts the person. You said, hey, it actually is affecting your brain.
Mhm.
How is mental health in this area of addiction? How does it impact the people around them? So this is for, I want people to understand the impact that it have. Like you say, your uncle show up, nobody talks about it. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of impact did that have on your family?
Yeah. So again, the first is, it's painful. It's
Mm,
painful, it's embarrassing. Um, you feel like you're in this alone, because it's you don't know everyone's family tree and history, and not everyone shares everything. So I think, from that end, it was not everyone knew that the child, but it wasn't something that was spoken about, it wasn't a table talk, right? So we'll put it that way. So I think for families, dealing with situations like that, which we have to deal with every day, we understand it's painful, it's hard, especially as a mother. If that is your child, you want to protect them, you want to help them, and the family, they go through a lot, but it's also exhausting. And so by you carrying that burden on you, you can predispose yourself to anxiety, depression, and all the things that comes with excessive amount of stress, because it's a constant stress. You're concerned, are they safe? Are they alive? Are they dead? Are they in jail? Where are they? And which is what you tend to find out a lot of times, because they go away and they don't come back for days at a time. They're into relationships that could be abusive, so there are a lot of fear with that, and so the family really does deal with a lot. And one of the things I always say is, let us help you. Never, you shouldn't suffer alone or suffer in silence, because there are so many great communities out there, recovery programs, rehab. The most challenging part with addiction is you can't force any individual to get treatment. They have to be willing. So, despite all the treatments that might be available, you have to continue to nudge them and encourage them, let them know that when they're ready to pick up that phone and say, I'm ready, I want help, that you'll be there for them. Because a lot of times they're like, oh no, my family, they're done with me. And that's the reality. But I always tell my patients that, they are done with you, but I bet you they would rather have you this way than dead. And that is the truth.
wow.
Nobody wants to lose a child. Nobody wants to just give up. I mean, they're trying and they've done things, and yes, they might feel exhausted, but if there is that just one, maybe that chance, that last chance, they would always still show up, And so I feel, I mean, as I'm coming from even being a mother, I know that I wouldn't want to see my child, I always tell you, there's no way your mother wants to see you dead, or your father or your loved one, no matter what, they want to see you get the help. Yes, they're burnt out from repeated cycles happening over again, whether you're stealing their money or they're exhausted from that, but
Yeah.
they still want you to get the help. So I think it's important to know that you're still important. What you're doing is being available, letting them know that when you're ready, pick up that phone and call me, and keep checking on them. It's never easy, but we say keep checking on them, but also stay guard and protect yourself. in the midst of it all, because you don't want to get to the place where the stress has now led you to have, leave your own health, your physical, mental health. Okay.
Mm,
Yeah.
which is the tips that you talked about. Let's how to embrace all of you, like the person who's experiencing and being in a relationship with someone who has an addiction. They still have to take care of themselves. Like they
Exactly.
have to take care of themselves. I love that you help your clients, your patients, really understand that people would rather have them alive than dead as they are. You know, it sounds like you're teaching them to really shift their thought, their mindset, because of course they're feeling a certain kind of way, guilty, embarrassed themselves. There's all kind of feelings, I'm sure, that goes through their brain. But as you said earlier, the brain is being affected,
Yeah.
so it is altering the way you think about things as well. I
Hmm.
love that you empower them and really express that to them, because people need that. I think everybody needs to be reminded, hey, you're valuable. You know,
Yeah.
that's we're doing this worthy woman series because I truly believe that, my assignment is people are valuable as
Yes.
human beings. And so I love, talking with you about this subject matter, because you're teaching them that they're valuable and that their family actually, they want them in their lives and they mean something. So
Exactly.
that's
Thank you.
powerful, girl. Yes, thank you. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit, because you're a doctor and you're doing all this work and you're helping a lot of people, right? How in the world do you balance being a wife and a mom with what you're doing?
Huh.
How do you do it? Because
So
I'm sure a lot
let's
of
just
your
say
kids are how old? How they're young.
they're 6. Yeah, they're young.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Honey,
So
you have a lot on your plate.
yeah. Yes, yes, yes. It's funny because, to be honest, when we think about work-life balance, which has been thrown around a lot, there really isn't a work-life balance. Something has to give. And you just have to figure out and determine what it is. And you have to be intentional. You have to determine
Mm,
and see that, okay, well, there's a time and season for everything. So, right, this might be the time to focus on family. Like, they're always in the picture, but maybe they're in their early years and you really want to be there. You want to kind of take a pause with your career and things like that. That is possible. Now, then you can shift. There's those that are like, okay, you know what, my career is important. Then I can get help, knowing that you cannot do it all by yourself. Yes, maybe, you're both working, and that's the world that we live in today. Husband and wife or partners are working, everyone is working. And so you have to figure out how to get help. So there are things that if you can, delegate, whatever
mm,
you can. You have to just find a way of just trying to make the best of it. Communication is key for relationships, right?
mm,
Being able to
yes.
communicate and letting, always putting each other first, right? And also in a way that you're able to engage and protect yourselves, because that comes first before everything else, right? The kids and all all the other things. And so you kind of want to really pay attention to that. So for me, I think that's really been the way. It's not all easy. And so sometimes I also have the show, I talk about it, and I was very busy at the beginning of the year. In the middle, I sort of take a break. The kids are out of summer, you have to do things. And you have to prioritize what is important right now, because sometimes we have all these great plans, but, things happen and that throws
Mhm,
you off, and you have to take a step back. While it's great, you want to be at the forefront, you're doing your research, you're a top lawyer, top doctor, whatever it is you're doing out there, you might need to step back and say, you know what, this maybe I need to take and not work this time around, or take a time off and pay attention to the things that I need to focus on. And so really there is no one fits all. Everyone
mm,
just has to
my
figure it out. You really have to identify, where am I right now and where should I be, or what your goals are. And so being intentional, putting down, making a structure, a schedule, what it is that you want to have, and your goals and visions and dreams, and then laying it out, and also saying, you know what, Lord, what should I be doing? What's important right now? And so these are key factors that you want to think about. So it helps you kind of really it helps you just navigate that process. For me, of course, I being a doctor was definitely a long journey. And so being here, of course, we're like, I always say, it takes so many years. So, and you're here, and then it's busy and busy, and then the pandemic happens, and your whole world is blown, and you're like, it's even busier.
Yeah.
So, but it's fulfilling, because that's what you love, and that's what you it's there's a joy to see people do well and get better, and then so that really makes it worth it. So I think that's really a key thing. Being in taking care of yourself is important. I mean, you can never run away from self-care. With everything in terms of work-life balance, you must always take care of yourself. You must learn to say no. So it's not everything you're going to sign up for. It sounds good, it seems exciting, but you have to take a step back and say no. And I've had to learn that in a very hard way at times.
I love it.
Because you feel like you want to do everything, you want to help everybody, but
Yeah.
we cannot do it all. It's just impossible. We cannot do it all. And so being able to just say no right now, that maybe it's not the time. Set boundaries, because people, a lot of times I always say, like, if you're that go-to person that everybody's coming to for help, at a lot of times you might feel overwhelmed very quickly. And so set boundaries. There are protected times and protected things that you can, accommodate. But there's also some times you might have to take a step back and say, I can't do it right now. And so learning to know is very key.
Girl, you dropped down a lot. Did y'all get all that? But she dropped down some stuff. And I'm gonna recap a little bit what you said. You said be intentional. I love when you talked about a shift and a season. And then you talked about how listening to where God wants you to be too. There's a delegation. You mentioned that. Like there's a lot of, I think what it sounds like for you, this is your balance. This is your balance. You've chosen to delegate. You've chosen to be intentional, and you've chosen to take care of yourself. And I love that you said, hey, sometimes I have to step back, and I just can't do it all. I think that's the key for anyone. You also mentioned like knowing what works for you. It's not a cookie cutter form. Yeah. And I appreciate that. And so I want everybody to really understand that that's watching, because sometimes we look at different people and we look at all this. I'm a fan of, like, I get inspired by a lot of people, but I don't try to live their life. Exactly. I'm like, you go, girl, you can do that. You get up at 4 a.m. in the morning. You up at 4 a.m. Do your thing, boo. But I'm gonna be sleeping while you up at 4 a.m. I'm gonna do my thing at 8. Yes. So, I think that there are people who really they gravitate to some of these influencers, different people who are very passionate about what they do, and then they want to try to do it just like that person. So what you shared is so key, that it doesn't, what you're doing and how you balance may not work for me or the person that's watching right now. But again, some of it may work depending on what their life is like. So y'all really, grab at that, because when she's talking about this shift in the season, those are two valuable words to me, because, we're not going to be always busy. I mean, sometimes work is slow. Sometimes the rhythm of the family is slow. You're just chilling. Then summertime comes. I know for you, the kids are out of school, so it's a different shift, right? Same thing for me. And so I really appreciate you really giving a variety of balance. And I think it's important for people to know that there's more to just one thing than for balance. So yes. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask you, like, with that though, do you, like, with your family and your work, I know you named off a lot of different things. Is there a specific habit that you have? Like, for example, for me, on Sundays, I don't social media. It's my Sabbath. Don't ask me to hang out. I'm gonna be in my bed either reading or watching something that I want to watch because I don't watch a lot of TV. And so on Sundays, I take my time to worship in the morning, and then in the afternoon, it's just me and my date. My kids know, don't ask me to take you to your friends. Don't ask me to take you in. So that's kind of a habit that I've created for myself, and it's my practice.
Mhm,
It's what I
mhm.
do, and everybody knows that's in my life. That's what I do. So, is there something for you that you could share as a mom and a doctor? Like there's this practice or this habit that you have it's non-negotiable.
I would have to say my quiet time. That's,
Mm,
no matter what I'm doing, everything stops when it's time to stop. It's time to stop because I just need to have that. It's a reset for me. Being
mm,
able to just recalibrate, reset, be renewed. And so those are like that would be my thing really. It's I don't necessarily have like I have my routine and what I
mm.
do typically. Um I'm gonna have to steal that Sunday thing from you. But I'm not sure I'm there yet because one kid has this party, the other party, and so I'm like, oh, except I said this break, no parties this weekend. I'm not doing any, but we're not there yet. But hopefully, so I do like that. But it just has to be, for me, it's a daily practice.
Yeah,
Talk about having time to exercise. A lot of times I'm trying. It's constant work. We work at everything. I wish I could tell you everything comes easy, but it's not. It's a constant. You have to put certain things into practice and make it your habit and say, you know
mhm,
what, this is non negotiable. 30 minutes, I'm going to do something physical in terms of challenging myself, just to, of course, get that heart rate up. Staying healthy is part of mental.
yes.
And then, of course, then for me, my quiet time, it's non negotiable. I don't do anything without letting the Lord lead me, and that's important for me. And so,
Woo,
so I think that's something that those are two areas for me that are non-negotiable. And so that is my time. Where I fit it in, that's up to me. I've decided, but as long as I have to be, of course, again, you're intentional about because it can be during I'm trying to get the kids to school or anything or to bed or take still seeing a patient. So you have to
yeah.
figure it out and kind of plug it into your time that works for you during the day. And right now they're all in bed, so I can do this. And I'm really understart, right? So, but
Because you're like what 3 hours ahead right now. So,
more
yeah,
3 hours, yes,
got you.
3 hours,
Ooh, I
yeah.
love that though. Like that's your non-negotiable, and that's beautiful. When we were, and I'll talk a little bit more about the pageant in a minute, but that's something that I noticed that there were a lot of faith-led women, and so it's really cool to just hear you go. My time, my quiet time, because that time is the time to hear from God. That really is a special, valuable time. So I love it. I love it. I want to jump over to see what some of these people are saying in the chat.
Sure.
Let's see here. Welcome, Dr. Tola. How interesting it is to learn that the brain structures change as a result of addiction. That your 8 dimensions of wellness is highlighted, and someone says, Are you able to incorporate your faith into helping people heal?" They wanted to know that question. So
Absolutely, yes.
so you basically you let them know that you are a woman of faith. Like how does that work? Like if you wanted to answer, like give her something specific, are you able to incorporate your faith into helping people heal? It's
Yeah,
a yes or no question, but
yeah, no, and it's there is
elaborate.
there is a way around it because I work full time and I also have my private practice. And so
Okay.
I'm, in a hospital setting, you have to, it says gives to Caesar what is Caesar's. So there are certain things and laws and things that you abide by, but I'm who I am. And so this is who has led me to who I am. And so it does not leave me. So even when I'm engaging with you, I put everything from what I know and how I know that I should be talking to you. Yes,
Mhm.
all the knowledge base, we put that in there, but I can hear and I can see if there are things that, could help you. And I always ask the question, what is your faith? And do you have any religion preference? We have spiritual counselors who we all definitely we can offer to our patients at times. And then for my private practice, that's something I'm able to do as well, based on my conversations with them. And also, like, I do have like an addiction support system. And so with that, one, again, we incorporate the 8 dimensions of wellness. And so there's a part on, that just focuses on spirit, spiritual health, so when you hear about all these different recovery groups, Celebrate Recovery, AA, everything talks about a higher power. So everyone has what it is that they identify as a higher power. Mine is Jesus. And so this is what it is. And so this is the path. And I know that it is your guaranteed, success. And so that I do share, based on the conversation, and how if you're open to it. I'm not imposing anything on you. It's a matter of where you are, and I'm hearing you, we're seeing you, and I always say, like, medication is awesome, is great, but it might not just do everything for you. So that's when we have to take a step back and say, what are we missing in this picture right here? And so, and then I always say, hey guys, I think it's time to pray for this person.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's good to know that that you're in this field, and you basically you're being led by the Spirit. I love it. I think it's awesome. I think we need more women of faith doing what you do. So I'm sure there's some out there, but I don't meet a lot of them. So I'm very grateful that you do what you do. I wanted to, so thank you for that, but I wanted to hop over a little bit. We're going to shift again.
Hey.
I want to talk about this pageant.
Yes.
I want to talk about the pageant because that's, of course, where I met you. But you sound like you had a full life before 2022. So you sound like you had a full life, but when I saw you at the pageant, you're serving, you're helping people. I mean, what made you decide to be in a beauty pageant, being that your hands were full serving in the mental health industry?
Yeah.
Like, what made you choose that?
So I think, the Woman of Achievement came in a different perspective. So I have to give it, Omanessa, really, she was the one who really told me about it. And at the time that she did, I was in a place of meditation and looking for something, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And then she came and said, "Oh, you need to do this." I'm like, "No, I'm over 40. I'm not doing this. What am I doing a pageant for?" I mean, I did pageants when I was much younger, the Miss Teen Georges and things like that, and that I was trying to get a scholarship for medical school. So I'm like, why am I doing that? What was the reason for it? But I felt a calling, like there was something about it. It wasn't just about a pageant. It was more about what you were doing for your community. And where, for me, like, if you can't tell already, I'm really passionate about mental health and breaking the stigma with mental health. And that was my platform, really, which is to educate people. We have, of course, in the BIPOC community, we know that, it's something that is such, it's not, prior to the pandemic, it wasn't everywhere you turn to, it wasn't mental health. People, it's still, the stigma was there. But now you have companies, Judge Floyd happened, all the companies now incorporating the employment assistance programs where mental health is huge. And so we've seen a significant shift. And I'm like, it's not enough, because then I have conversations. I'm like, you didn't know that? And so, and that kind of really, really sort of birthed even the Dr. Tola show, which was more about, we need to bring more awareness. There's so much that people don't know, even though we know we're all typing Dr. Google, because Dr. Google is everything that everybody goes to. But there's still so much, information out there, and just trying to let people normalize mental health, because normalizing it, knowing that you're not struggling, you're not the only person out there going through this. There are so many people, but a lot of times things are in the closets. And so by the time they're coming to us, they're in such fragile states, very, devastated, or even have harmed themselves and things like that. And so that for me was, I will do this to continue to raise awareness about mental health. And so the platform really drove me to it. And so I was like, sure. And I kind of just, jumped on the wagon. I was like, okay, well, maybe that was what I needed. And truly it was what I needed at that time. And
Mm.
it was perfect. And it's been an amazing, journey. I've met someone like you, Chantel, beautiful in and out. And so, and it's just been a blessing. A lot of doors opened up, networking, like you had the experience. These are gifted women with amazing platforms and stories and it was just such a mind-blowing experience in itself. So yeah.
That's so cool. Now you talked about like you were able to push your platform, and you dropped something that I just caught. You have your own show.
I
For the
do.
Dr. Tola show. Tell me a little bit about that, and like how did the pageant help in any way with that? Like how has the pageant blessed you? Maybe two separate questions. How has the pageant blessed you with your platform? And then did the Dr. Tola show emerge out of that? Like, tell me a little bit about the Dr. Tola show first.
Yeah, sure. So, it started literally when I was in my training, and that was again just educating people, bringing awareness to what does depression look like, what are the symptoms, because I had done an article on physician suicide. These are people who are highly trained and they know everything, but yet there was an increased rate in physician
Wow.
suicide. And so just wanting to break that, like, what are we missing in there, not just the professional community, but what are people that missing out there? What are the signs to begin to look out for? So like we all know what signs of stroke is, so if you see somebody, you're definitely calling 911 at that point in time. So we wanted the same thing with mental health, and that was what I was going for. Like, I'm learning this. I'm like, man, people don't know this. So I'm excited what I'm learning. I'm calling family. I'm like, oh, are you guys this way? Are you feeling this way? And so and they're like, what you talking about? So it was really more about, as I was learning, I was like trying to just put information out there. And that was really how it kind of really birthed into that. And of course, over the years, sort of try to, formalize it a little bit, take breaks in here and there. But so in terms of the pageant and how it helped, of course, meeting, with beautiful people like yourself, and just being able to actually get them on the show, continue to engage with them, continue to network with them, being on their shows, those who have shows or podcasts as well. And so that's, really one of the great things that's been happening.
Nice. So you built a community.
Yes.
That's cool. I'm a fan of community. I love it. Is it a podcast, or is it like a in studio? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
is it
So
on?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Right now it's and we kind of do the live again through Instagram, and then it goes on the on my YouTube channel. So
Cool. Wow. Oh, girl, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I mean, even tonight, you've just educated us with a lot of information. I'm sure there's something that you said tonight that somebody did not know. I did not know some of it. I definitely did not know the effects of, the brain that the addiction is doing. So thank you, Dr. Tola. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
you're very
I
welcome.
really
Thank you
do.
so much.
So we're pretty much at our time. I'd love to have you. I mean, I'd love to, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, maybe have they have more questions, where can they find you? And then what words of wisdom would you leave us with tonight to close out this segment? Can you hear me?
Sure. I
Okay.
was let me try and see.
So
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you now. You froze a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So hopefully no. So you can get me on my website, www.drtola.com. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Tola Psych MD, and I'll try and put that in the chart here. And so I like my 5 S's, right? I call them my 5 S's that we go through. And so we've kind of touched about that. We talked about touched on the first one, which is self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so self-care, definitely, you cannot go wrong with that. That is important. Self-care, being intentional, taking care of yourself, taking time out for yourself. I talk about the second S, which has to do with sleep. I always say if you don't sleep for a few days,
I'm
you will find yourself
joking.
in the hospital. So you have to sleep, you have to rest, eating, physical body, what you're putting in, what you're eating. The studies are showing that, getting at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep is important. And so, of course, we know that even with newer studies coming out, they say the more you can get, grab onto it, run with it. Eating, of course, choosing, making healthy choices, physical activity, even if it's, I say start slow, go slow. So, even if it's 15 minutes a day, what you want to do is you want to get that heart rate up. And so these are ways to kind of keep the body full. So we're, taking care of our bodies, and so you mentioned something about social media. I say take social media breaks. So that's my number 3. Yes, social media is amazing. It's wonderful. But if you get caught up in it, you feed yourself with all the things that you're seeing. So while it's lovely to check my page the entire day, you might begin to think about other things like, oh, you wish you could be this or that. And then you start putting yourself down and not realize that, that's not everybody's life you're seeing. You're seeing a glimpse of your life on social media, or if you're feeding yourself with negative things via social media. So you want to be mindful of that. So it's okay to do social media, but give yourself a break from social media. I talk about, staying connected with your family and friends. That's important. Now, family, friends doesn't necessarily mean you're biological. You build your community and you stay with them because they're there to cheer you on. Even when things are not right, they're there for you. They're there to, and make sure that you're able to, whatever you're dealing with or struggling with, you are there. They're there for you. And of course, I always say, if all else fails, you seek professional help. And so those are my 5S tips that I always give out. And I think that is so important because if you really look through that, something along the line there is not working or functioning when you look at your life. If you're feeling constantly overwhelmed, and I trust me, it is the truth.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Tola. Oh my gosh. Did you guys hear that? You take some of that. You may not, all of it may not be for you, but take one. Take one of those S's that she talked about. And I'm definitely going to be looking for that 8 dimensions of wellness. That's powerful. I cannot wait to get a hold of that. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all, so Dr. Tola just dropped some good stuff for us. And if you got on toward the end, go back to the beginning and watch the beginning. We will have a little break where it got cut off. So I'm so sorry for that. Y'all can blame the internet for that. But I really appreciate everything that you shared. I think it's so helpful and so key. And I definitely cannot wait to watch your show too. I'd love to just catch some episodes of what you're teaching because I think, what you're doing with dispelling myths and really educating people about addiction is so powerful and the world needs it. Because it's looked at, I think there's so much judgment anyway in life. And when you can educate people about a person, it's the most powerful thing. It's a great tool and it helps change lives,
Yes.
so you're changing lives. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can't wait to have you on the show. So we'll be talking.
Yes, I love to be on the show. Thank you. So y'all, that's going to be it for us tonight. I really appreciate you being on again. And I hope you guys got some good stuff out of this because it was good for me. So I know it would be good for you. and some of you may have family members that, have addictions. And so, please listen to what she shared because you may be able to be someone that can at least maybe send them over to Dr. Tola, who can help them further. So again, that's it. But before we go, y'all, I do want to leave one little thing that I want to share that I am doing, Dr. Tola, that's been very exciting for me. Is doing my Woman of Worth tour that I'm going to be doing. I'm doing my first women's conference. And, everything that you were sharing about wellness and self-care, that's what this conference is all about. It's really helping women to value themselves, to live in their worth, to live as God created them and accept nothing less than that. So I want to show you guys my flyer here.
Ooh, beautiful.
So this is an event that I'm doing. I'm going to Texas, Nevada, and the main thing I want to talk to you guys about tonight is the one in California. So if you're local in California, I would love for you to join me. You can go to my website, chanteldenise.com, and get your ticket, honey, because we're gonna have a great time with all of us as women, just celebrating who we are. It's going to be a room full of power. So I would love to have you join me on that. So that's what I'm doing. That's my next thing that I'm really, really excited about. And I wish you were here, Dr. Tola, so you could
Oh my gosh.
come.
You know, okay, we'll be talking off air.
March 31st, March 31st. But yes, you are going to probably be coming back for the next pageant that Woman of Achievement is doing, right? You're going to be coming out during that time, right?
I'm going to try, definitely.
Okay. Well, we'll talk more about that.
Yes.
But that's it, y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Thank you again, Dr. Tola. You are awesome.
So much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. And so, as I always say, y'all, make it a good night because you can. Thank y'all. Bye.
Bye.